to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Monday morning, 44 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. I told you I would come slightly late than 9 a.m. sharp to accommodate or allow our brothers from Europe to wake up since we are 3 hours ahead of them. And yet they're very valuable members of this community. So sometimes those timeline changes can happen or do happen for the benefit of the channel and our viewers, because they are the essence of why we get on this forum every single day. Anyways, happy new week to you all and a blessed new month ahead. It's the 2nd of February. And that means we're already into the second month of the year. Are things looking bright for you, or are things looking slow for you? Anyways, whichever the case is, I hope you find your footing in this new year. A lot did happen in 2025 that perhaps we had nothing other than hope to carry on through, to have hope and faith that this year will be much better than the last. So I hope things are so far going in the right direction for you. Anyways, this morning we'll be discussing Liverpool's hijack of Chelsea targets, and then Merino is set to undergo surgery. That and among other things from the weekend. But the transfer window does close today, so keep your ears and eyes on the ground for anything that may fall through or that may happen at your respective clubs. I do not expect that a lot of business will be conducted, but I do expect we could have perhaps a surprise or two in terms of January recruits. As we all know that football is a game that never disappoints. Any day is a good day to have a surprise of news, just as much as results sometimes take us by surprise. Even the transfer news can equally happen in a similar fashion. So do not be surprised if you hear news that perhaps your team that were very inactive in the transfer window have suddenly decided to recruit somebody on the final day of the January transfer window. Okay. In summary, the January transfer window I thought has been very underwhelming in comparison to previous years. I do not think we've gotten a plethora of activity and in terms of transfers. Previously, when the Africa Cup was still ongoing, I used to think maybe perhaps I'm not giving it the attention that it deserves. And I have my ears or eyes more on the Africa Cup of Nations that I had not cared long enough to know what's happening in the transfer window. But for all intents and purposes and for every deal that mattered, I think we did enough just to keep you guys abreast on what was happening in the transfer window. So, and that's where we will start things off of this morning. Like I've told you, it broke last night that Liverpool had completed the hijack of a Chelsea target in Jeremy Jacquet. Yes, the 28-year-old French under-21 defender has been subject to transfer speculation, not just in the January transfer window, but this dates to as far back as the summer. For those of you that care to remember, Arsenal were linked with a potential move for Jeremy Jacquet, and this was I think before they even signed, Pierre Hincapié. So Jeremy Jacquet's name has been quite in the media for some time, given his sort of talent as he's sung praise of. Good morning, Pedri. How are you, my brother? How is Spain this morning? Kaiser Santos says hello. Hello, Kaiser Santos. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. Finally, Liverpool are signing a centre-back. Indeed, finally, because we're talking about a Liverpool side who, during the course of the summer, on deadline day, tried but failed to sign McKay from Crystal Palace, because Crystal Palace decided not to let go of their captain at that particular juncture, and then that meant that Liverpool put a stop to a proposed transfer for Joe Gomez to go to AC Milan. So And then when it came to January, everybody thought that Liverpool would be one of the first teams to explore the January transfer window to try and sign a centre back. Whereas that was the expectation, the reality was much different because once again, Manchester City, not so much in a stunning turn of events, but went on and beat Liverpool to the signature of McKay. In all fairness, Liverpool did not seem like they even put up a fighting chance to try and land the services of the 25-year-old English centre back there. You say, I'm good. How is Uganda and how is your family? Family is good. Uganda is okay. It's a bit calm and quiet this beautiful morning. The sun is already out. Yesterday we had some, early morning rains, and in the evening at around during that time of the Manchester City game, I remember I was watching the game at a pub somewhere, and then the signal went off because of poor weather conditions. So I had to rush home and see the rest of the game from home. So yeah, we had some evening pours, and we are all good. So back to the gist of Liverpool. So I do not think they put much up of a fight in trying to sign McKay. I don't know if they had gone back and expressed that interest, they would have landed these services, or they deemed the transfer fee perhaps out of order to their test, given that the player only had 6 months left on his current contract, because he ended up going for about 20 million pounds, That's what he cost Manchester City. And he's done fairly okay. I think he's done actually brilliantly well so far. We've only seen him in a couple of games. Of course, we never got to see him in the UEFA Champions League because he wasn't registered, and he will be registered for the knockout phase. But I feel that that's quite a scoop for Liverpool. So this was, broken by, David Ornstein yesterday, saying Liverpool reached a pre-agreement with Rennes to sign Jeremy Jacquet in the summer of 2026. Deal for the 20-year-old Rennes centre back is worth 55 million pounds. That's the guaranteed fees plus 5 million pounds in expected add-ons. Personal terms expected not to be a problem after the French under-21 international picked Liverpool, viewed as a key part of a team rebuild. So when they say viewed as a key part of a team rebuild, what are Liverpool meaning here? Are they saying they are rebuilding their backline? Anyway, essentially that's what it is, because let's be honest, when Alexander Trent-Arnold leaves, and we all know the transfer clamor that was revolving around Andy Robertson, with a potential move to Tottenham Hotspurs, with also previously in the summer with teams like Atletico de Madrid interested, then clearly it's perhaps understandable, because then you have Milos Kakes at left back, you have Jeremy Frimpong deputized by Conor Bradley at right back, and then that centre back you have, of course, the captain Virgil van Dijk is still a mainstay, and then you have Ibrahim Konate, who is yet to agree to a new contract with the Reds, and there is a high possibility that possibly he does leave in the summer as a free agent, and therefore you need, a backup player. Yes, we remember they did sign Giovanni Leoni in the summer. You say, so he won't play now? It is for the summer? Yeah, it is for the summer. He is not moving in now. They've just, wanted to do their business early on and agree things because we're talking about a Jeremy Jacquet player. Like I told you previously, he had been linked with a move to Arsenal, but more recently in the January transfer window, he was heavily linked with a move to Chelsea. Chelsea were the leading contenders to sign him. And I remember listening in on a couple of Chelsea fans who seemed frustrated that their club was still going again for the youngsters, less experienced players, and yet what they think or deem to be the necessity within their squad is experience. I said this when Chelsea let go of Thiago Silva. Now, unfortunately, for a good number of teams in Europe, age is still a factor that they will let go of a player because of their age, and less because of that player is no longer giving the team what they think they need. Because I thought the experience of a player like Thiago Silva would have still helped Chelsea, one, in helping those young centre backs want to develop, but also providing them with guidance and leadership on and off the pitch, but more importantly, on the pitch, whenever he was fit to play. And now, some people tend to have this school of thought that that for as long as you keep those players of advanced age around, then you're sort of denying space or limiting the space for the youngsters that are coming up. Now, whereas that argument could hold water, we all know that at the high stakes level of the game, you're going to need that experience because we all know that young players, given the chance, can be brilliant, but once or twice, or even more than that, they will cause you problems. They will come with their lapses in concentration. They will come with that immaturity, that inexperience, and they'll cost you points. They'll cost you games. So, and that's what we've seen Chelsea go through when they played the likes of Joshua Achepong. Of course, they do have some fairly senior players there, the likes of Tosin Aderabio, Trevor Chalobah for me, and then but you have a Levi Colwill who is still a youngster. You have a Wesley Fofana who is constantly disturbed by injuries. Richard James' history with injuries had not been any different until this season, because I think this season, possibly, I stand to be corrected, but possibly, I feel he's played more games than he's played in the last two seasons up to until this stage in the season. So you sort of have that bit of a mix. And then Kukorea is one of those experienced players that you have within the backline. So, but then he does not offer you the kind of leadership that perhaps Thiago Silva will offer you. And I don't think Robert Sanchez, as good as he has been this season, having his tally at 9 clean sheets this season, still has provided that much needed leadership that perhaps a player like Gigi Buffon, like Mike Maignan at AC Milan would provide his backline and things like that. So, but yeah, I think Jeremy Jacquet is a brilliant signing for Liverpool. I've not watched enough of him, but from the clips that I've glanced upon my eyes on, I think he's looked at decent. I do not want to get carried away, because every time a player, a little known player, to me, and perhaps to a fair share of the football community, once he's signed to a big club, what we usually do is run to platforms like X, platforms like YouTube, and try and watch some of their clips to see what the player is all about. And unfortunately for me, oftentimes I've been persuaded by what I've seen in those clips, and then those players did not live to those expectations. A case in point was Nicolas Pepe when he was coming on from, was it Lille, to Arsenal, and this was what, around 2019 or 2018, I think thereabout. So he looked brilliant in his clips, but in summing up his Arsenal career, he was less brilliant. Of course, there were some mitigating factors, but he was never the player that he was on the other side of the aisle. So we've seen that partake a good number of times. Look at Mykhailo Modric, and while we did not watch enough of the Ukraine league, we had had glimpse of him in European competitions, and he looked a decent player. So in addition to what we had watched, in addition to the clips that we watched of him, he still never lived to the bidding in as far as Chelsea his Chelsea career was concerned. Yet he was brought in quite expensively for a fee north of £88 million. So, and as we speak today, he remains an indefinitely suspended player. And I do not know what world is in what world that is fair. First of all, nobody has been forward or has been transparent enough with the Mykhailo Modric story. All we know, he was discovered to have, taken some banned substances, to which he says he wasn't aware that he was taking them. And I've said this before, it's quite very innocent of players to ingest something that they did not know was contained in whatever it is they were taking. I'll give you an example. And guys, this is not an advert. If I give you this bag of chips, because this is Gonja crisps from a company called Newman's, and like I said, it's not an advert. If I give you this bag of crisps, and then you eat them, but then let's say they were zested with a spice that is banned, and you eat them, You're going to eat them innocently, not knowing that they were zested with that spice. So a lot of these footballers have taken food supplements, to food supplements, maybe it's vitamins, I do not know, it could be anything out there to try and keep them in shape, or they've been given as medication for recovery, things like that. So, and then that they have been given innocently turns out it has a component of a substance that is banned. So for me, I want to give these players the benefit of that. Now, it's not odd or it's not unthinkable that a player would intentionally try to flout the rules. It's not unthinkable. We've known these things to happen before. Players like Rio Ferdinand, served their fair share of bans for taking, was it marijuana? So, but I want to give a player like Mukalo Modric, let's not ruin his career over an unsubstantiated claim. And even if it is substantiated, give a verdict. I mean, how long does it take to investigate these cases? I mean, it's okay to suspend a player for a month or two as they undergo investigation, but the last time Mukalo Modric featured for Chelsea, and I stand to be corrected, was possibly December or November 2024. So that means it's been a whole whooping year and a month without the player kicking a ball. Why? Because he's in this sort of indefinite suspension as his case or his matter is being investigated. I want to equate it to the curious case of Lucas Paqueta and the betting allegations that were brought onto his name. My point is, let the player play on as you go on with your investigations. And should he be proven guilty, then you will sanction him at the right time. I come from a world where the law says you're innocent until proven guilty. Never mind that that's not the actual essence in practice by our law enforcers and courts of law. But at least that's the background of the principle that if you are suspected of having committed a crime, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. So in this particular case, Mukalo Modric is suspect until proven guilty. So his case has not been determined as proving that he is guilty. Like I said, to the best of my knowledge, unless there's somebody with otherwise information and they can let us know down in the comment section, he is just a player under investigation, So unfortunately, those things happen. So how did we digress into Chelsea? It's the nature of our conversations here. But anyways, brilliant signing for Liverpool in getting Jeremy Jacquet. In fact, I was catching up with Fabrizio Romano. He was saying that those terms, personal terms, have all been agreed with the player. Now, when you have a pre-agreement or in principle, that means everything is agreed the way Arsenal did for the Martin Zubimendi deal, the way teams have done previously before in other deals. You can agree on a deal and then the player joins in the whenever you deem it necessary, the way Chelsea did with Giovanni Quenda, the way they did with Dario Esogo, that was in January 2025. Yes, January 2025. In the case of Giovanni Quenda from Sporting Lisbon, Chelsea decided that he will stay with Sporting Lisbon for a full season and a half. So Chelsea fans do not expect Giovanni Quenda to arrive until next summer, the way they did with Willian Estaval at Pyramides. So these kinds of pre-agreements for clubs to sign players are very, very common. Okay. So, but yeah, Jeremy Jacquet has been a highly sought after centre-back, young French centre-back. And like I told you, a lot of European teams were clamoring for his signature, but it looks like he's chosen to go to Liverpool. And I mean, I've already said, if you're a young, talented defender or you're a middle-aged defender, like the case of Mark Kehi, I always thought that Liverpool was the best destination a defender can go to. Why? In terms of numbers, not because it is a guarantee that when you go to Liverpool you'll succeed, but look at Virgil van Dijk. is gradually going away from his prime. You've had Ibrahim Konate, whose role has been up there for the taking all season because he's had a bad run of form. He's had things not go his way. And so if there was somebody to give him sufficient competition, possibly that person could have broken through the Liverpool starting 11. But because there wasn't any, for as long as he was fit, he was always given the opportunity to start because we know Giovanni Leon has suffered that anterior cruciate ligament injury and we've not seen him in a bit. So anyways, that's the story regarding Liverpool in as far as transfers are concerned. Then David Daturo Fofana is leaving Chelsea to go and join their sister club in Strasbourg. Strasbourg yesterday lost, unfortunately, to Paris Saint-Germain by 2-1, with Paris Saint-Germain finishing that game with a manless following a straight red card, a sending off of defender Achraf Hakimi, who, by the way, touched the referee after being shown the red card. And I do not know, but I hope he doesn't get sanctioned for that. But in any case, if he is sanctioned for that, then he'll have no excuse whatsoever because I've said this. It's okay to disagree with the referee's decision, but there are certain lines you should prevent yourself from crossing. And I thought that was one of those. So David Daturo Fofana to Strasbourg is a here we go. It's a done deal. All documents are approved. Let's wait and see. Then Chelsea decided to recall Mamadou Sarr from Strasbourg. Remember, they signed him last summer from the same side and then sent him back on loan. Now, I've told you guys, Strasbourg is owned by the same company that owns Chelsea, Bluco. So that's why you keep hearing this an overload of interchange of players between the two clubs. Chelsea is constantly shopping from Strasbourg, so much so to the frustration of the Strasbourg fans. We know they are interested in their striker, Emmanuel Emega. We know they've signed Mamadou Sarr from there. We know they've taken their head coach or manager in Liam Rasinha. We know for a fact that last season, George Petrovic and Andre Santos spent their season-long loans to Strasbourg from Chelsea and things like that. Now, I was listening into there's a French journalist, normally features, I think, on ESPN. I forget his name. And I don't know if Pedro is still with us, to perhaps, in case he has the name off his fingertips to remind us. He was saying that there's a section of Strasbourg fans who are frustrated and do not like this Bluco ownership. Why? Because they've literally turned Strasbourg into a Chelsea academy, into a Chelsea test lab for everything that they want to do at Chelsea. When they sign players, they send them to Strasbourg on loan. When Strasbourg has a brilliant player coming through, they come and sign him, which further weakens the team that has bigger ambitions, at least not just domestically, but also in Europe, because we know last season, finishing 7th, saw them qualify for the UEFA Conference League. And there's truth to that. And for me, that's where conflict of interest comes in. It's no, I can't even compare it to the way you have Real Madrid and Real Madrid B. But this is similar to you know the saying of do not get high on your own supply. Literally, it means if you're dealing, then do not be ingesting because you end up, taking your own shit. So in this particular case, Chelsea are literally getting high on their own supply. Now, the difference here is that on the other side, you have a whole team that believes or thinks they are independent. And they are to a certain extent. But the things that Chelsea keeps doing to them is not going to leave them any stronger. It's not going to leave them any stronger. And I think that's very, very significant. But anyways, it is what it is when it comes to, transfers that Chelsea decided to recall that. Then, also still speaking transfers, Liverpool decided not to proceed in their deal to try and sign Lachiri Getrida, yes. Chance presented to Liverpool and were ready to advance on the 25-year-old was keen, but proved complicated. Alternative, not expected, but contender for Jeremy Jacquet from State Lanes. That's the, earlier on that, with Sacha Tavorire breaking that news. They were interested in Lacheri or Lachari Getrida, yes, and they ended up going for Jeremy Jacquet. Then also, Jean-Philippe Mateta did leave Crystal Palace to join AC Milan. He underwent his medical, I think, yesterday. And then also Everton did reach an agreement with Chelsea to sign a 19-year-old forward. That's Tariq George. The 19-year-old forward goes to Everton on loan for the remainder of the season with an option to buy, pending Everton's ratification. The England under-21 international was granted a permission to travel for his medical yesterday. So those are some of the key transfers that are making the rounds. Of course, we're going to have a look at at what else the rumor and gossip mail have for us in stock. But then, according to Ryan Taylor Sport, he says Arsenal are expecting a last-minute loan signing. The club have 2 loan spots free within their current Premier League quota, but Arsenal are expected to look abroad too. Ruben Neves is the kind of profile that would appeal to Arsenal due to his experience, but he does not appear to be a realistic target. My fears were as such. Then Arsenal also have 18-year-old Lil Kimi Ayobo Boadi in their shortlist. He is a player they are due to seriously assess at the end of the season, and it remains to be seen whether they potentially explore bringing that interest forward in light of Mikel Merino's injury. Now, that sort of report takes us to the Mikel Merino injury. We know that Mikel Merino suffered an injury to his foot and is going to need surgery, and that was as revealed by the club, as according to posts to a statement by the club on their website. They said that the player will need surgery. They said in a statement released on their website, Arsenal said, further to sustaining a foot injury towards the end of our game against Manchester United on January 25th, subsequent assessments and specialist reviews have confirmed Mikel Merino has a bone injury in his right foot. Mikel will have a surgery in the coming days and will then begin his recovery and rehabilitation program. Mikel is expected to be out of action for an extended period with the aim of returning to full training before the end of the season. Everyone is fully focused on supporting Mikel to ensure he is back to full fitness as soon as possible. Now, in the wake of that news, it reminded me 2 things. That are one, Arsenal just let go of Alexander Zinchenko after returning from his short-lived loan spell to Nottingham Forest. He's been sold to Ajax for £1.3 million. Now, whereas the Arsenal project had outgrown Zinchenko, I, for one, still feel that perhaps if they had not already made that decision, he could have been a usable member in that midfield. Of course, it's not the same profile with Mikel Merino, but at least it gives you the options with which to operate with. Then also Ethan Nwaneri. This one was let go to Olympique Marseille on loan for the remainder of the season. Now, I was an advocate of that loan spell because it gives the player more consistent game time to help him develop. And we know he's quite a player. He's very, very talented. He just needs to keep playing consistently. And when he made his debut for Olympique Marseille, he went on to score. Now, in letting go of those 2 players, have Arsenal weakened themselves? Now, in the wake of Mikel Merino's injury, that's how you're going to feel, or that's how it does feel like, that in a way or the other, unintendedly so, they've weakened themselves. I think if there's any club that knows the possibility and the ugliness of injuries, it ought to be this Arsenal side. Why? Because last season their campaign was ravaged by injuries. It was injury after injury, injury after injury. So much so that a good chunk of players played through injury, the likes of Yuan Timber, the likes of Ben White. Why? Because they did not have the luxury of sending sending players to the treatment room when they still had, trophies on the line, So you remember Yuan Timber, prior to the second leg in the UEFA Champions League semi-finals against PSG, he did not train. Why? He had an injury, but he needed to play, and he played in that game. He played well, although they did not win. So those kinds of things, really. So they know one too well that injuries are a huge possibility at any one given time, at any point in the season. So the mere fact that as soon as they've lost Mikel Merino to what they describe as an extended period, which means they are not sure about the possibility of his return, maybe they are thinking to themselves, given that it's an injury to a bone in the right foot that is going to require surgery, then maybe they are looking at a period of 6 to 8 weeks, which is essentially a month and a half or two. Because when they say they look forward to the player returning before the end of the season, that means around April or even midway April. And when he recovers, remember the season ends on May the 30th, when the UEFA Champions League is expected to be played in Budapest. So that's the report on there. But then quickly to also look inwards, what are Arsenal's options should they fail to find a potent replacement? Like I've told you, or like we've read that report from Ryan Taylor, that Ruben Neves would be the ideal, but it sounds a bit unrealistic, or it doesn't look like a deal can be struck for him to join on loan. Then, and as soon as I saw the reports, and as soon as I saw the reports that they will try to bring in somebody, my mind rests off to think to the question of who, because we are at a critical stage in the season for every little club out there that languishing a player of the quality sufficient enough to be deemed an addition of strength to this Arsenal side, that side is not going to want to let go of that player. One would imagine, let's look for examples. If you went to Nottingham Forest, a player of that profile would be, let's say, an Elliot Anderson. They're not going to let go of their starter just to appease Arsenal. No. When you go to a team like, of course, they can literally can never do business with Tottenham Hotspurs. Are you going to go to Everton and request for Keenan Brisbury Hall? They're not going to give him to you. Are you going to go to Newcastle and approach Sandro Tonali? You're never going to get him. Even if you wanted a Joe Willock. Now, of course, there were teams are trying to get to sign Joe Willock. Was it Everton that were interested in Joe Willock? I don't remember particularly, but there was a team interested in his services, and Newcastle were hesitant because they did not want to sell until they had a replacement. So, with this being the final day of the transfer window, any team that wants to let go of a potent player must have a certain level of guarantees that they are going to get a replacement. That's why Crystal Palace, in all their negotiations, were hesitant to let go of Jean-Philippe Mateta before being rest assured that they were getting a Strand Larson. And it was after that deal was confirmed for a little under £50 million that then they okayed the move for Jean-Philippe Mateta to AC Milan. So in that sort of sense, in that sort of expectation, so it's going to be really, really difficult for Arsenal to find a replacement. But like I said, looking inwards, one, with Mars Lewis Kelly, with Piero Hincapié, Riccardo Carafiori, all as potent left backs, Mars Lewis Kelly, who we know is naturally a midfielder, can come into that role. Now, of course, it's not going to give you what whatever Mikel Merino offers you, but it's something. Somebody mentioned Martin Zubimendi and Declan Rice. I do not want to focus on them because they're already starters and Merino is backup to them. So who else would you look to in that role? Ebeleche Eze, still a different profile, but I think they will take solace in the return of Kai Havertz now. And perhaps their rush or panic in this particular situation is because they know Kai Havertz just returned from 5 months spell out through injury, and the chances of him going back to the sick bay before the end of the season are higher than his chances of staying fit for the remainder of the season. In other words, there's a 60% chance he goes back to the sick bay before the end of the season. So imagine losing him in less than a month from now, or within a month before Merino is back, what that implies. But he is one player that is really, really capable of, helping Arsenal sort of try to fill that void where you do not have Mikel Merino. So Maslow, Skelly, and Kai Havertz for me would be the sort of quick names or figures that I would think of. Then the other name is Christian Norgard. We know that Norgard has suffered from a lack of sufficient game time throughout this campaign, and this is the opportunity. So whereas Arsenal feel there is a need, I do not think the significance of that need, given the extra bodies they have within that squad, is a make it or break it. That's how I look at it. Anyways, it's up to you, Arsenal fans, to let us know what you think, whether you think they should be making some rash decisions and that Andrea Bata should be coming up with solutions as soon as possible. Anyways, meanwhile, according to Florian Plettenberg, he says Manchester United tried to hijack Jeremy Jacquet's summer transfer to Liverpool in the last hours, but were unsuccessful. Jacquet already had an agreement in place with Liverpool. Excuse me. That's the tricky side or the funny side about transfers. For those of you that are just joining the broadcast, kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here and help us continue to grow our Football Tribe UG community. So, like I was saying, the funny thing about transfers, and I've already said this, until you have a player clad in your club jersey, holding it up, having put pen to paper, a transfer deal is never done until it's done. So anytime a team is going to try and hijack your deal, let's not forget, Liverpool tried to sign Martin Zubimendi prior to the start of the 2024-2025 Premier League season, and they failed. Guess where he ended up? At Arsenal. Remember, Arsenal tried to sign Joan Manuel Mata. He ended up at Chelsea. Man United tried to sign John Obi Mikel. He ended up where? At Chelsea. You remember Tottenham Hotspurs did everything to sign William Borges de Silva. He ended up at Chelsea. So deal hijacks are still a thing in the market. Anyways, let's move on. Moving on, but we'll stay with the realm of transfers. Why are we staying with the realm of transfers in a bit? Is because the transfer window closes today. And like I told you, Juventus are in the market and they want Everton's Beto. So let's see what the rumor mill has to say. These stories are as compiled by BBC Sport. Juventus have made an inquiry about Everton's Beto, but the Toffees are reluctant to let the Guinea-Bissau striker, 28, leave because he is one of only 2 senior forwards in the squad. That's with Tony Barry. And yet the other day I was telling you that James McNeil has not lived to the expectations this season. And even though they get Tariq George, I do not think letting themselves that bare is of any importance. Then Juventus are also close to a deal for Manchester City's 19-year-old English striker, Justin Obua Woodou are there, according to Sky Sports Italy. Tottenham, Leeds, and Sunderland are monitoring Real Madrid's 19-year-old Brazil forward Endrick, who is impressing on loan at Lyon. Now, Endrick is a very brilliant player, but he just never got the playing time at Real Madrid. I mean, you wouldn't expect him to start ahead of Kylian Mbappe. Manchester United will not be able to prevent a 28-year-old English striker Marcus Rashford from staying at Barcelona if the Spanish club offer 30 million euros under the terms of his loan, according to Mundo Deportivo. Nottingham Forest are looking at other targets as their approach to Inter Milan's midfielder David Fertezi, 26, is unlikely to succeed. That's according to Sky Sports. Celtic have rejected a £14 million offer from Nottingham Forest for 22-year-old Belgian midfielder Anne Egos. Then also Liverpool are interested in Inter Milan's 29-year-old Netherlands wingback Denzel Dumfries, according to Fabrizio Romano, while Liverpool's Hungary midfielder Dominic Solanke, 25, says his future is not in his hands as talks continue over a new contract. That's according to The Athletic. Chelsea are monitoring not as 18-year-old French defender Tyler Tati, according to L'Equipe, while Leicester City and Birmingham City are two of championship clubs to have contacted Newcastle about 32-year-old English defender Jamal Lascelles. That's according to Sky Sports. And lastly, Brighton are in negotiations with Marseille over a return of 25-year-old loan Denmark midfielder Marty O'Reilly there, according to The Athletic. So that's a part of the gossip and rumor mill as the transfer window edges closer. Now, let's go into the weekend and discuss what did happen, or have a review of those results from across board in the major 5 leagues there in Europe. Okay, starting off with what transpired yesterday in the Spanish La Liga. Real Madrid left it late. They needed a 98th minute penalty to win actually an 100th minute penalty. 10 minutes were added into that time. Rayo Vallecano finishing the game with 2 players less following Cisse's sending off. Excuse me, and Chavaria sending off. So very interesting. But Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe were the goal scorers in there. Like I said, Kylian Mbappe's penalty in the 100th minute of that game won the game for Real Madrid to move back within a point behind Barcelona. Then Real Betis beat up against Valencia by 2-1, while Celta Vigo and Getafe shared the spoils in a goalless draw, just as much as Athletic Bilbao and Real Sociedad in their 1-1 encounter. In the German Bundesliga, VfB Stuttgart beat up against Freiburg by 0-0, while Borussia Dortmund beat Heidenheim by 3-2. In the Italian Serie A, Torino beat Lecce by 0-0, or Como and Atalanta shared the spoils in a goalless draw. Inter Milan beat up against Cremonese by 2-0, while Juventus were 4-1 winners against Parma. In the French League 1, Lyon beat Lille by 0-0, while Angers beat Metis by similar scoreline. Nice and Brest shared the spoils in a 2-2 draw, while Toulouse and Auxerre cancelled each other out in a goalless encounter. Strasbourg lost at home against PSG there. Beautiful game of football for those of you that had the chance to glimpse on it. But Panicelli missed a penalty in that one in the 21st minute, while Dow squad to cancel out Senima Euro's lead. And then Akraf Hakimi, like I told you, he got sent off. And then Nuno Mendes scored what turned out to be the match-winning goal in that game. In the Premier League, Manchester United beat up against Fulham by 3-2. Brentford beat up against Aston Villa by 0-0. while Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw. And then in the late kickoff on Sunday, Man City shared the spoils with Tottenham in a 2-2 draw. That means only one team of the top three or the title contenders won their game this weekend. Speaking of Manchester City, they did indeed let themselves down, conceding that 2-0 lead thanks to goals from Ryan Cherki and then Anton Semenyo at the tail end of the first half that gave them a 2-0 lead at halftime. But in the second half, they were far from convincing. In any case, they did not have even a shot on target. And they ended up drawing thanks to a brace from Dominic Solanke, including what could pass for a goal of the season for his scorpion kick off Conor Gallagher's cross in around, was it the 70th minute? They're about to restore parity for Tottenham Hotspurs. Speaking of the first goal, which he does score, he kicked Mark Gahey in the back foot or in his ankle before proceeding through to nick the ball and score past Gianluigi Donnarumma. And for me, that goal should not have stood. For me, the goal should not have stood. Why? Because if the roles are reversed, that's a foul that's given as a penalty on any given day. I do not know what the referee was up to, but Rob Jones, I do not want to blame him much because perhaps he did not see the incident well enough to deem it a foul in real time. But I thought VAR should have called him to the monitor, perhaps to take a second look at that particular incident. If it was in his wisdom to say it's not a foul, the goal stands, that would have been a different story. But he even never got the chance to review this, incident, which has caused a bit of a stir among Manchester City fans. Now, this is coming in from David Onstin saying Jeremy Jacquet is flying to Northwest this morning for medical today as all parties work to complete the summer move from Rennes to Liverpool. 20-year-old Stade Rennes defender is joining Liverpool on a contract until June 2031, plus one after clubs agreed a £60 million deal. So there it is, you have it, Liverpool fans. The player Jeremy Jacquet is flying over for his medical, but like I said, it's a summer move. It's a summer move. It will be completed in the summer. So they're just trying to agree on everything beforehand. Okay, so yeah, that is what is happening with Jeremy Jacquet. Now, quickly to go back to just to go back to that Manchester City game. Besides that, for me being a foul on McKay and that the goal shouldn't have stood, I do not think Manchester City did themselves any favors in that game, particularly in the second half. They did not look good. And Pep Guardiola decided to make all his changes that would have had perhaps a more significant impact on the game quite late on, bringing on players like Phil Foden, bringing on players like Omar Mamush, which did not pay off eventually because I thought those ones came really, really late, So really, for me, when you're chasing a Premier League title, last weekend, literally Arsenal did you a favor. They lost to Man United, and it worked to your advantage that you won against Wolves. And all that was required was to stay in pace this time around until perhaps, if all goes to perfection, until April the 18th, when Manchester City will be entertaining Arsenal. And then if you beat them, then it reduces the deficit to a mere point. Now, I'm not saying it's done and dusted, but the more it stays that way, the more it becomes more difficult. So Arsenal now have a 6-point lead at the summit of the Premier League standings, as we are going to see, because from Saturday, the results read as such. Of course, Arsenal beat up against Leeds United by 4 goals to nil. By 4 goals to nil. Brighton and Everton shared the spoils in a 1-all draw. Bournemouth won 2-0 against away to Wolves. Chelsea beat West Ham 3-2, and Liverpool thrashed Newcastle by 4 goals to 1. But so, going back to Sunday, also, the other surprise result was Brentford's victory away to Aston Villa. Again, Aston Villa, a team in the title race. Going into match day 24, they were only 4 points behind Arsenal, the table leaders. They were in third place, of course, Man City being ahead of them on better goal difference and things like that. The advantage was that they were at home, and that's why my prediction had been a 2-1 victory for them. But unfortunately for them, they did not have the grit for it. We're talking about a Brentford side who played a majority of that game with the manless following the sending off of Kevin Schade in the 42nd minute, and only about 4 minutes later, in the first minute of stoppage time of the first stanza, Dango Ouattara scored a brilliant goal to make it 1-0, and that's the goal that turned out to be a match winner. In that same game, you had Tammy Abraham score, but his goal was ruled out by VAR, and yeah, it was just a bad day. It's one of those games where no matter what you do, you're just not going to score a genuine goal, because Aston Villa dominated every key aspect of that game, and yet they still could not find the breakthrough. They still could not. And I thought it's quite telling. And that's why I keep saying or keep reminding people that winning a league title, it's not just about what you do, it's also what happens with your opponents. And for particularly Arsenal this weekend, 2 of their main title rivals did not win, and Arsenal won. So it is up to Arsenal to keep that momentum, to keep it going, to keep it going. In any case, they have, I don't know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage, but Manchester City's next game over next weekend, still at 7:30 p.m. East African time on Super Sunday. I think that will be on the 8th or 9th of this month. It will be on the 8th. Manchester City play away to Liverpool. So, whereas Liverpool have not covered themselves in glory in recent times, that they are capable of losing to any particular side in the Premier League this season, I do not think that Man City will take that as a given that they are going to win it. In any case, it could be a draw, it could be a loss for Man City. The game is at Anfield, So, in that same weekend, Arsenal will be up against Sunderland. It is going to be another weekend in which Arsenal will have played earlier, which means the pressure will be on Manchester City to win and stay in pace, Same applies for Aston Villa, whatever their fate is next weekend. So that's the sort of look of things there. But yeah, like I said, in the Spanish La Liga, following that victory for Real Madrid, they remain just a point behind the table leaders. Barcelona, who have, I think, 55 points, and Real Madrid have 54. Atletico Madrid are in third place, literally 9 points adrift over Real Madrid. Villarreal at 42 points. Villarreal still have a game to play. Excuse me, they do have a game in hand. I think that game in hand is against, I don't know, either Sevilla, Real Mallorca, or Levante, because those are the other 3 teams that equally have a game to spare. So yeah, that's the top 4 in the Spanish La Liga, with Real Betis coming 5th, Espanyol 6th there. Then, for a second consecutive weekend in the German Bundesliga, Bayern Munich did not win because they shared the spoils. I think, was it in a 1-all draw? Come on. Bayern Munich. Oh, sorry. Their game was against Hamburg. Yes, they shared the spoils in a 2-all draw against Hamburg. Remember, last weekend, they lost to Augsburg by 2 goals to 1. So it looks like they've had their blip in form. But still, they are still miles ahead of everybody else. After 20 games played, 16 wins, 3 draws, and only 1 loss, 74 goals scored, 18 conceded. They are at 51 points. And Borussia Dortmund, who are in second place, they have 45 points. That's 6 points adrift. Now, at one point, those points were 11. Now, because they've dropped 5 points in the last 2 match days, that deficit with the second place Borussia Dortmund has been reduced to 6 points. I do not think that Dortmund will catch up, but like I keep saying, in football, anything is possible. But yeah, it's the kind of league that Bayern Munich dominates. So the top 4 is Bayern Munich, second is Borussia Dortmund, third is Hoffenheim with 42 points, fourth is VfB Stuttgart with 39 points, RB Leipzig come fifth with 36 points, and Bayer Leverkusen in sixth place with 35 points. So yeah, of course, Bayer Leverkusen also have a game in hand. That game will be up against Hamburg SV. Hamburg, who have literally struggled all throughout this campaign so far. So that's that. Hope I'm not forgetting. There are things that I thought we were supposed to talk about. Okay. Quickly in the French League One. Let's look at, before we go to the French League One, the Italian Serie A. Of course, there is a fixture tonight between Udinese and AC Roma, but Inter Milan remain at the summit of that league table with 55 points after 23 games played. That means they are, although AC Milan have a game to spare, they are 8 points ahead of second place AC Milan, who have 47 points. Remember, AC Milan are under the charges of their former manager, Massimiliano Allegri. And then Napoli, the reigning champions, come third with 46 points. Fourth is Juventus with 45 points. Roma have fallen down or have slipped down to 43 points. Of course, they play tonight. And then Como in sixth place with 41 points there. So that's the formation of the top 6 teams in the Italian Serie A. So let's quickly move on to the French Ligue 1 in terms of their own standings. And so far, in the French Ligue 1, there's only one elephant, and that's PSG, who are leading the pile after 20 games played with 48 points. RC Lens come second with 46 points, only 2 points behind the leaders. Then Olympique Marseille in third place with 39 points, as do a fourth place Olympique Lyon. Then Lille 32 points, come fifth. Stade Rennes come sixth with 31 points, and Strasbourg come seventh with 30 points, as well as Toulouse in 8th place. So yeah, that's the gist of it in as far as those respective clubs, top 5 leagues are concerned in there. Okay. Today we'll be shooting another video. I intend to shoot a video in which we're going to discuss what's his name? Rodrigo Cascante's comments. In the aftermath of their 2-2 draw, he had a scathing attack on the referee Robert Jones for his what he regarded to as more than just mistakes. So he spoke as Man City captain, and there's a part where he says he would have expected. Okay, he says maybe the manager should be the one saying these things, but he won't. And as captain, I'm choosing to say them. It's a very, very interesting conversation that I think we're going to dive into on its own, because it's worth the time and the salt. He makes some interesting allegations or pointers, although he himself does not come to the table with clean hands, because as the saying goes, he who seeks equity must come with clean hands. But Rodrigo Cascante's hands really, really clean? I do not want to believe so. It's a game where he should have been sent off, but I don't know whether it was luck or otherwise, but he did not get sent off. And yeah, so we'll be discussing that as well in a separate video. So be sure to look forward for that video that will be uploaded on the channel. I think later today. I'm trying to explore some moves. I'm trying to reach out to some people. Let's see if we can book in some interviews for this week. But yeah, guys, it's been a pleasure doing this with you. Kaiser Santos, Pedri, and every single one of you that has kept it locked on the Football Tribe UG channel on this beautiful Monday morning, the 2nd of February, 2026. Thank you so much for dedicating your time to be with us. Allow me wish you a blessed rest of the day, a blessed new week, and a wonderful month. May God grant you your wishes. May God bless the works of our hands that they shall bear fruit. Until next time, stay blessed. Bye-bye for now.